Welcome back to Thirukkural a Day, Chapter 6, Kural 7. சிறை காக்கும் காப்பவன் செய்யும் மகளிர் நிறை காக்கும் காப்பே தலை. What avails the guard of a prison? The chief guard of a woman is a chastity. In the context of a household, what are the most effective ways to maintain order and security? Can external rules and restrictions ever be as effective as internal principles and a sense of personal responsibility? Mali stared at the papier-mâché flamingo, a look of utter confusion on his face. This was the treasure, the secret worth all the hushed whispers and furtive glances? He shook his head slowly, a low chuckle escaping his lips. A flamingo, he muttered to himself in disbelief. The next morning, Captain Caspian, still slightly out of sorts, announced that he had been pondering the best way to maintain order in the rather unconventional environment of Vijaya's home. Caspian declared, "Right then, I've been thinking what this household needs is a proper watch and ward system." Vijaya raised a skeptical eyebrow. "A watch and ward system, Captain?" "Precisely," Caspian boomed. "Rules, regulations, a clear chain of command. We need to implement some ship-shape discipline around here." He proceeded to outline a series of rather ridiculous security measures involving designated chore rosters, mandatory quiet hours, and even a suggestion for makeshift bridge in the living room from which he would oversee operations. Vijaya was utterly unimpressed by Caspian's attempts to impose naval discipline on her home. She believed in a different kind of order, one based on mutual respect, consideration, and a shared sense of responsibility, her own internal safeguard. The idea of a chore roster dictated by Captain Caspian and mandatory quiet hours felt like gross invasion of her domestic autonomy. The implementation of Caspian's watch and ward system was a disaster. His booming commands often clashed with the relaxed atmosphere Mali tried to maintain. Ben, caught in the crossfire of Caspian's rigid rules and Vijaya's quiet resistance, became even more flustered than usual. Caspian even attempted to establish a system of fines for rule infractions, such as leaving shoes in the wrong place or speaking above a designated decibel level during quiet hours. This led to a series of farcical incidents, with Mali slyly avoiding chore duty and Lata deliberately humming loudly during quiet time, just to annoy the captain. Vijaya found herself constantly dismantling Caspian's well-intentioned but utterly impractical security measures. She quietly rearranged his meticulously labeled storage boxes, accidentally misplaced his chore charge, and feigned a deafness whenever he tried to enforce his decibel limits. One afternoon, Caspian decided to implement a patrol system, assigning Ben the task of ensuring everyone was adhering to the rules. A nervous Ben was found lurking in the hallways, clipboard in hand, looking utterly miserable. Vijaya took pity on the young sailor. "Ben," she said kindly, "don't worry too much about all this. Just try not to trip over anything." Later, Caspian, frustrated by the lack of adherence to his rules, decided to take matters in his own hands. He attempted to install a series of makeshift security checkpoints around the house using lengths of rope and strategically placed cushions. This culminated in a scene where Vijaya, carrying a laundry basket, tripped over one of his rope barriers, sending socks and underwear flying across the room. "Blast! Damnation! Mrs. Vijaya," Caspian exclaimed, looking exasperated. "Can't you watch where you're going? These are critical security measures." Vijaya, her face flushed with a mixture of annoyance and amusement, retorted, "Captain, the only security measure I need in my house is a bit of common sense and consideration for others, not a trip hazard made of old rope." Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Gupta, their notoriously competitive neighbor, her face set in a disapproving scowl. She had clearly witnessed the flying laundry incident through the window. "Mrs. Vijaya," she said, her voice dripping with disdain, "I must say, the state of your household is rather alarming. One would think with all these extra gentlemen staying here you would maintain a stricter decorum." She cast a pointed look at a stray sock that landed near her perfectly manicured lawn. Vijaya's jaw tightened. Mrs. Gupta's judgmental gaze and condescending tone were the last thing she needed. The clash between Captain Caspian's ridiculous watch and ward and Mrs. Gupta's unsolicited critique of her domestic management was about to escalate.